In just a couple of hours, it's the Jets, it's the Patriots, it's Mike Garafolo who joins us on the field before tonight's AFC East tilt to break it all down. Well, who else is on the field? In pads. That's right, it's that guy, Jordan Love. Real video from today. Hear what Packers coach Matt LaFleur has to say about QB1's possible return. Plus, you are running out of time. Repeat, you are running out of time to set your fantasy lineups, but don't do it yet. Michael LaFleur is going to be here to tell you who to sit and to start. We're always a start, even though, ironically, we're usually sitting. Welcome inside with the Insiders, alongside Ian Rappaport, Judy Batista, and a Natalie-dressed Mike Garafolo. I am Tom Pelissero. We've got a lot of injury news around the NFL to get to, but let's start because Mike is wearing a tie and he put on the sunglasses. I didn't know he was going to do it. But it's an outdoor game. This is what Garafolo does. Mike, to the extent that you can see, since I don't think you really need the shades in the shade right now, tell me what you're looking forward to here Monday night, the Jets home.
We're not in the
Thursday
shade.
Night, whatever we are.
We're not in the shade. The sun has not yet disappeared behind the grandstand here, I guess we'll call it. When it does, I will take the shades off. Listen, I was here on September 11th last year. Aaron Rodgers came out carrying an American flag. It was one of the most electric. Yes, it was one of the most electric stadium environments I think I've ever seen outside. I mean, I didn't even include a Super Bowl. This place was absolutely rocking. There was so much anticipation, so much expectations for the Jets. And then 4 plays in, Judy's next to me, and I go, I think he just tore his Achilles. So here we are. Here's the reset. And I'm expecting a similar type atmosphere, but one that the Jets fans hopefully are going to expect to carry through the entire game, and that it's going to last more than 4 sets, and that they're going to come out victorious, and that they're going to be 2-1 on the season with Rodgers now showing signs of being the guy that he was. Look, this offense is never going to be. I've already seen the numbers about how, this is the fewest total yards for Aaron Rodgers through 2 games ever. Forget that. That's all out the window. This is not Rodgers who's going to throw 40 touchdowns. This is going to be more of a ball control offense, and an offense that at the right time when they need plays, Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to make them. He did it even against the 49ers. They showed him in those spurts. The throw to Allen Lazard and a couple other throws on the other scoring drive that they had. You saw it against the Titans. They want to see it now against the Jets. It would be the first time the Jets won consecutive games against the Patriots since like 2008, I think was the year that I saw. So this is going to be for Jets fans, they hope, a cathartic evening here at MetLife, which Rodgers called Jet Life earlier this week.
Well, after Rodgers got hurt last year, the thing that kept the Jets from completely imploding was the defense. I am looking tonight to see if the defense this year is going to look more like what we saw last year than it has in the first 2 weeks. Last week against the Tennessee Titans, it looked a little bit better. They got more of a pass rush, although, of course, they lost Jermaine Johnson to the Achilles injury. But Will McDonald came through. They're going to need more from him, certainly the rest of the way, with Hassan Reddick still not reporting to the team. But they're also going to need more of the run defense. It, again, was a little bit better against the Titans than it was against the 49ers, but they're still giving up a ton of yards, and you've got to think the New England Patriots are going to give them a heavy dose of Ramondre Stevenson in this game. So I'm looking to see if the Jets defense can take a step forward tonight.
I'm looking to see how much this Jets defense actually gets tested by this Patriots offense. So let's kind of turn the focus there. We know spent a lot of time in the offseason and leading up to the season talking about the Patriots quarterback situation, Jacoby Brissett. Well, now we've kind of turned our focus to the Patriots receivers. Pop Douglas, one of the Patriots' really young, talented receivers, I would say said some words this week that maybe he's not exactly getting the opportunity to showcase what he's got. And Gerard Mayo was asked about this, and he said, he said, we want people to be frustrated if they don't have targets every game. There's a couple people who are frustrated. That's what you want. You want them to be competitive. That said, haven't been a ton of passing yards over the first couple games. 121, then 149 from Jacoby Brissett. And it seems like the Patriots receivers have been essentially non-existent. A lot of Ramondre Stevenson, a lot of Hunter Henry, not as much of stretching the defense, not as much of the receivers. Is that going to change, Shane? Are we going to see Jacoby Brissett kind of air it out? It's like the old saying goes, the squeaky wheel gets the thing. And we'll see if the Patriots adhere to that old adage later today.
Gets the grease,
gets what?
not the thing. What version? Anyway, okay, we're just going to let that
Whatever.
one slide. Patriots have to play. Listen,
you get the ball.
play to
the football.
the players that you have. They think the best way right now, ball control, play good defense. Case in point, the Packers doing the same thing last week with Malik Willis, but there appears to be at least a chance that this week it's going to be Jordan Love. He was on the practice field again today. He was in pads. Another significant step, though certainly no guarantee yet, that means Jordan Love is going to return to action on Sunday against the Titans, who happen to be Malik Willis's old team. Remember, Jordan Love suffered that MCL sprain 13 days ago in Brazil. The original timeline was 3 to 6 weeks. Certainly there was optimism from the start that he was going to be on the lower end of that timeline, but this would be something less than that. Here's what Matt LaFleur had to say, and once again, he is certainly not closing the door.
I think every day is a good day for him to get out there and be out there with his teammates. And same as every week, we'll give him up till kickoff or 90 minutes.
That would be a change from last week when they downgraded Jordan Love Saturday morning to doubtful. There was certainly, Ian, through the course of the week here, at least some optimism in terms of a week ago that maybe Jordan Love had a shot, but they knew by the end of the week it wasn't going to happen. This time around, Matt LaFleur is saying, we're going to go all the way until Sunday. What does that mean for the reps that Love is getting during the course of the week? What does that mean for preparing Malik Willis? I would think the Packers have a pretty good grasp on what direction this might go, but time will tell. We might still be close to 72 hours away.
Man, Matt LaFleur hates those injury-focused press conferences. He just hates them. You can see the gritted teeth are having to explain he's just limited, okay? He's just limited. So we will find out later in the week whether or not Jordan Love is going to play and how limited he is. You're right, this is much faster than I think anyone anticipated. I would also say that Jordan Love is the kind of guy who would be fine putting a brace on it, not being himself, and as long as he can't hurt himself more, as long as he can kind of stay out of harm's way, he's going to go out there and try to play. What's going to be fascinating to me to watch, guys, as we get later in the week, is how much of this is actually a coaching decision rather than a is Jordan Love healthy enough decision. It's a long season. They literally won last week by handing the ball off and making sure Malik Willis just had some easy completions. They can do that again and make sure that Jordan Love doesn't put himself in a situation that is disadvantageous to him. I just wonder if the coaches go, you know what, respect you, amazing you're out here, it's just not worth it. But that decision, as LaFleur said, might be 90 minutes before kickoff.
Well, first of all, I'm still keeping hope alive for the Malik Willis vengeance game. That's what I was looking forward to. Even if Jordan Love plays, you have to think that they are going to lean heavily on the running game. They've been running the ball really well. Obviously, in week 2, they had to run the ball well, and they ran it a lot. But even in week 1 in Brazil, they ran for 160 yards. So they've been running the ball well. They can sort of, even if they put Love on the field, they can protect him by running the ball a lot and not putting the game solely in his hands. Listen, if nothing else, this is forcing the Titans to consider the possibility that Love is on the field and to prepare for that, at least to some degree. I still have to think if he's on there, though, it's going to be in a very limited capacity.
Yeah, with MCL injuries, you'll turn the corner, and you'll turn the corner quickly. It's just a question of when that happens, and it seems like it's starting to happen here for Jordan Love this week. So, the way that Matt LaFleur is not giving any insight, refuses to answer these questions, it's actually a pretty entertaining give and take with reporters the last couple of days, leads me to believe that he thinks that Jordan Love truly has a shot here, and wants the Titans to prepare for both quarterbacks, spend less time preparing for the actual starting quarterback of the team, so you can go into there with that advantage from that standpoint at the very least.
Another quarterback injury we're keeping an eye on, Justin Herbert, the Chargers quarterback who got banged up a little bit in the game. Didn't miss a snap last Sunday, but didn't practice on Wednesday. A good sign here that he's making another step forward here. You can see him way in the background. It's the guy in the yellow jersey throwing there. He had his ankle heavily taped, according to reporters on the scene. Officially listed as limited today. Jim Harbaugh said he just hopes that he gets a little bit better each day. You know, Justin Herbert, if he can be out there, he will be out there. If not, it will be Easton Stick getting the start against the Steelers. Meanwhile, we know Cooper Kupp is not going to be out there for the Rams this week in a game against the 49ers that it's fair to say lacks quite a bit of star power. You got no Puka Nacua, no Cooper Kupp, no Christian McCaffrey, no Deebo Samuel. But unlike some of those other guys, Ian, Kupp, it still sounds like maybe there's a chance he could avoid injured reserve, which would take him out for a full 4 games.
I'd say there is a chance. Here's where it stands with Cooper Kupp, of course, one of the best young receivers in the NFL who has battled some injuries over the course of the past couple years. He is currently in a cast, which sounds terrible. It's not terrible. It is a high ankle sprain. Generally, those are 4 to 6 weeks. That's why I say there's a chance he could maybe be back at that 4-week mark, maybe just misses 3 weeks. So I think for the Rams, they at least have kept the door open. The reason you put him in a cast is because that's the best way to get the ankle just to do nothing, just to absolutely calm down, try to get some of the swelling down, really keep it immobile. Probably going to be in it for about a week or so, and then you hope that 2 weeks of rehab can get him out on the field a little earlier than anticipated. Puka Nacua also out. Whole Rams offensive line seems out. It is, guys, been a lot for the Rams. You talked about the game with the 49ers. I mean, yes, the two teams will be there in jerseys and helmets and all the other stuff they wear. There's going to be a lot of players that we do not recognize on the field when these two teams play.
You know, our colleague Jeffrey Shadia does his first reads column on Monday, and he did this week patience or panic. And he put the Rams in the panic category, and I have to agree with him. This is a pretty dire situation. Now, not only are the wide receivers banged up, but they're not running the ball really at all. Kyren Williams has 30 carries so far for 75 yards. They're also not doing well on defense. The pass defense obviously got shredded by Kyler Murray last week. So the problem here is that they're going to have to win games in shootouts because they are last in the league in total defense and next to last in scoring defense. So you're going to have to put up a ton of points. You still have Matthew Stafford, but who is he getting the ball to try to have that explosive offense that they're going to need? Pretty tough situation for the Rams right now at 0-2.
Yeah, I mean, tough situation for both teams. And let's pull back the curtain here a little bit as we're putting this show together here. We're getting reports out of San Francisco from the reporters on the scene, including my buddy Eric Branch out there, who says George Kittle, hamstring, and cornerback Charvarius Ward, hamstring/knee, were not spotted at practice today. So, I mean, you looked at this game maybe a couple of weeks ago and you thought, wow, great NFC West battle. We are losing a lot of key players left and right, which is not to say that Kittle and Ward are not going to play, but not a great sign that those guys are experiencing hamstring issues here on a Thursday. So there will be no excuses on either side of this game. And Sean McVay, in particular, I know he's always tries to be a positive guy, and he's been trying to be positive through all this injury stuff, saying inside that building, let's just keep moving forward, no excuses, next man up. And the hope is that because these injuries aren't necessarily season-ending, that you stay afloat and the cavalry comes back at some point. If you can avoid suffering even more injuries, keep this thing going and make a playoff push later in the season.
2 night games for Garofolo this week. 2 sound systems being checked in the background every single time that he's talking. Another injury monitor. Look at those beautiful eyes. How about that? The Cowboys have a couple of players who did not practice on Wednesday. CeeDee Lamb, Trayvon Diggs. Coach Mike McCarthy, though, saying today not of high concern that they have been off the field and today back in a limited capacity. My understanding is CeeDee Lamb should be okay here. He is dealing with an ankle, Ian, but it doesn't sound like this is anything that we're talking about in terms of these longer-term ones we've seen with other wide receivers.
No, this seems to be more of a kind of make sure that he doesn't have too much mileage. If he's a little banged up, get him off the field, let him come back limited, which of course he was today. Not a big deal for CeeDee Lamb. The Mozzie Smith injury, as they check out his back, he kind of injured, it seemed, yesterday in practice. The way the Cowboys defense has been, I'd say it's a little more concerning, but for the Cowboys and for CeeDee Lamb, he is going to be a high volume target. He is going to do a lot during games. I'm not saying he's not going to practice this season, but I'm just saying if they have to take him off the field a little bit to preserve his full health, that is probably a good thing for the Dallas Cowboys. So no concern here. It's not, this is not like, let's say, the Rams or the 49ers, much more minor for the Cowboys.
Cowboys trying to bounce back from that ugly loss to the Saints. The Ravens going to Dallas trying to avoid an 0-3 start. That'll be a fascinating one to watch on Sunday. Chargers-Steelers also going to be pretty good. We'll see if Justin Herbert's going to be out there. Still doesn't sound like Russell Wilson's going to be all the way back, which means another week of that guy, Justin Fields. Can he do enough against the talented Chargers team to hold on to that job a little longer? We'll discuss it next on The Insiders.
You want two well-coached teams looking to play good defense and run the ball? This is your game right here. This is the game for Cam Hayward and Pat Freiermuth of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers, Chargers coming your way Sunday, 1 p.m. right there on CBS. Looking forward to this game as one of these two teams going to go to 3-0. Omar Ruiz and Steve Weiss joining us live from the NFL Network newsroom out there in Inglewood, California. Steve, I want to start with you. Let's talk about this vaunted Steelers defense, which I talked to a coach the other night when I was covering the Falcons-Eagles game. Said the Steelers may have the best defense in the league, and not enough people are saying that. So let's talk about that defense, that Pittsburgh defense going up against this Chargers running game.
Well, Mike, you alluded to it. This is strength versus strength, right? The Chargers run the ball. The Steelers are denying yards. The Chargers are averaging 200 rush yards a game. The Steelers are allowing 76. So how is this going to work? Can T.J. Watt and Cam Hayward and Alex Highsmith take on this good offensive line that, Omar, you know, the Chargers are going to run it regardless of how many yards per carry they're getting early on. That's going to be the big part. So they're going to have to play physical up front. Patrick Queen and those two safeties, Minka Fitzpatrick and Deshaun Elliott, are going to be filling the lanes. We'll see if Justin Herbert, who's been bothered by that ankle, is able to maybe do some play-action stuff. But that Steelers defense, when you watch how they reset the line of scrimmage, this is the true test for the Chargers going up against that front.
And you mentioned Justin Herbert did not practice yesterday, was limited in practice today as they get ready for the Steelers. But how about the story of J.K. Dobbins? What an effort he has been so far this season, leading the league in rushing. And you mentioned Patrick Queen, Steve, one of the Steelers linebackers charged with stopping J.K. Dobbins. And Queen is intimately familiar with Dobbins' story. First-round draft pick in the 2020 draft of the Ravens was Queen. The second-round pick was J.K. Dobbins. And Queen says they still talk about every other day. And he remembers talking to Dobbins, who has missed most of the last 3 seasons, all but one game last year, missed the entire 2021 year, missed most of 2022. And Queen remembers just talking to Dobbins to hang in there, giving those motivational talks of resilience and perseverance and have faith. And so to see Dobbins perform this way now, leading the league in rushing for the first 2 games, has been genuinely happiness from Patrick Queen. And he's been an inspiration for his Chargers teammates. Speaking with Rashawn Slater earlier this week, he said, you fight harder for a guy like J.K. Dobbins. They want to block for him and make sure that they see him as his efforts come to fruition. And even Derwin James joked with me yesterday that he's in practice going to give J.K. Dobbins his water directly. So really celebrating the efforts of J.K. Dobbins and really hoping that continues to propel that running game forward for these 24 Chargers.
A lot of strong candidates for comeback player of the year this year. Aaron Rodgers going to play behind me tonight. One of them, J.K. Dobbins, firmly on that list. Love to see what he's doing out there with the Chargers. Let's flip it around now because Justin Herbert, you talked about him being limited today, but the expectation is that he's going to play. So Justin against Justin. Justin Fields for the Steelers here has done such a great job of taking care of the football. So this Chargers defense, Jesse Minter's crew, Steve, how do they have to attack this game against the Steelers offense with Fields, again, not making critical mistakes?
We're talking about the Steelers defense. The Chargers have the top scoring defense in the NFL right now, and part of that is because they're edge rushers. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Tui Tuipulotu, right? So how do you make an ultra-talented group of edge rushers diminish them? You make them play assignment football, and this is where Arthur Smith, the Steelers offensive coordinator, is going to use the running skills of Justin Fields, and he's going to option him in the run option and the RPO passing game to make those edge rushers stay to their assignments, because if they break integrity, that's going to allow for a big play. That is something that will be sniffed out eventually over the game. Plus, as you're seeing here, Justin Fields in the play-action pass game, this is something that has worked. So the run and the pass are going to have to marry. The big thing for the Steelers, Omar, is getting into the end zone. They're not scoring touchdowns. That could be an issue, even though this is going to be a 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of game.
Yeah, we talked about off camera, the familiarity that some of that Ravens or that Steelers defense has with this Chargers offense, given all the former Ravens with Greg Roman and his offensive coordinating style, the 2 running backs that we mentioned, Dobbins and then Gus Edwards. But there's also familiarity from the Steelers for the Chargers defense, and that goes back with Mike Tomlin and Jesse Minter. the Chargers defensive coordinator's connection. Mike Tomlin was a defensive backs coach at the University of Cincinnati for Rick Minter, Jesse's dad. And Tomlin's saying that Jesse Minter was a high school student, would come out to their practices and sometimes work out with Mike Tomlin's crew there at the Bearcats facility. And so obviously he has a connection with Minter, has followed his career. And because of all the different players that have NFL talent coming through the University of Michigan the last couple of years, Tomlin says that he has studied that University of Michigan defense, which is what Minter has been able to move now to the LA Chargers. But now he has Khalil Mack, he has Joey Bosa, he has Derwin James, all making plays. You mentioned they're the #1 scoring defense, Steve, in the NFL, #2 overall. And speaking with Derwin James earlier this week, he knows that the Steelers have that reputation for defensive style of football. So they want to go into Acrisure Stadium and put their own stamp there and show that they are the best defense in football. So to Clash of the Titans, kind of the Jim Harbaugh bringing that AFC North style of football to the AFC West, and they'll have a true test on Sunday.
In other words, Mike, play the under.
Not allowed to. But thanks for the advice, Steve Weiss. We appreciate it. Omar Ruiz, Steve Weiss, knowledgeable, well-dressed, handsome, the both of you. Appreciate your time. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets got a much needed win against the Titans after that disappointing loss week 1 against the 49ers. And hey, they celebrated afterward.
That wasn't a good win. That was a great win. Just kept freaking swinging. Defense, it was hard. It's never easy in this league. 2 takeaways, 4 sacks. We had 8 different players receive the ball today from Aaron. And finally, 2 touchdowns from the young rook. Youngest player in NFL history to score a touchdown.
That was the Jets celebrating getting back to 500, now looking to go over 500. There is Aaron Rodgers arriving for tonight's game against the Patriots. We're going to talk more about that when we come back on The Insiders. Upgrade your Sundays with NFL Plus Premium and watch live, local, and primetime games on mobile devices, plus NFL RedZone, game replays, and more. Sign up today at plus.nfl.com. Subscription required for NFL Plus Premium. Terms and conditions apply. Beautiful MetLife Stadium, the site of tonight's Thursday Night Football matchup between the Patriots and the Jets on Prime Video. The start of Week 3 of the NFL season, with both of these teams looking to go above 500. The Jets have not yet been there this season. So this is a fascinating matchup to watch between two divisional rivals, and it's going to be a divisional rivalry after the Patriots have been dominating it for so many years. Look, we're going to talk so much about the Jets because we know the juicy storylines on those sides. So I don't want to ignore the Patriots side of things. And a Patriots team that I remember talking to the Seahawks folks last week said, boy, these guys are tough. They play really tough defensively. I want to talk about that defensive scheme in particular because DeMarcus Covington, as the defensive coordinator of the Patriots, what he's doing, what I've been told he's doing, is a lot of the traditional stuff that the Patriots ran under Bill Belichick, some of that traditional Patriot stuff, and he's blending it with what Drew Wilkins, the outside linebackers coach, who was with Wink Martindale with the Giants last year and really with him in Baltimore before. A lot of those Ravens blitz packages that they have, all of a sudden the Patriots have introduced that as well. So that is what has made it tough on not only the Seahawks, but also the Bengals the week before. This defense is playing really, really well, and Covington has done a great job so far as this coordinator, blending the traditional stuff that the Patriots have done with some newfangled stuff. So let's see if the Jets and Aaron Rodgers can try to start to figure that stuff out as well, because it's been a little bit difficult for some of the teams that have played the Patriots so far. Judy, let's flip it to the Jets offense, because I know you want to talk about one guy that they want to get involved.
Yeah, they need to get Garrett Wilson going more. He is sort of emblematic of the entire Jets offense, right? They've been really good in spurts. He has had some really eye-popping plays, but he hasn't scored a touchdown yet. He's got only 10 receptions. He's been really good on third down. He had a great reception on the game-winning drive last week against the Titans. But just like the entire offense as a whole, they need to get him going sooner. They need to get the entire offense going earlier. They have really been slow out of the gate. I believe they've only scored one touchdown in the first quarter so far this season. Aaron Rodgers said it this week. They are slow going. They got to get going faster than that. So this is going to be a real test for this offense. The Patriots defense, as you said, is throwing some different things at the offenses they've faced so far. And really, the Jets offense is still very much a work in progress. Aaron Rodgers said after the victory over the Titans, the offense is not where it needs to be. They are still working on it. They're still working out the kinks. But they need to start ramping things up, and I believe that starts with the main man, Garrett Wilson.
And one thing that's emerged for the New England Patriots is that Ramondre Stevenson has basically been the main man for New England. Remember, signed a big contract extension before the season, locked him in for years to come, and all he's done is average 100 yards over the first 2 games and be the kind of really bruising back this whole team has like an old school feel for the Patriots, right? I mean, it's a little bit of, 4 yards in a cloud of those like black pebble things that get in your shoes when you walk on the turf, right? Like that's basically what the Patriots offense has been. So we could talk about Jacoby Brissett, and I talked about the receivers early in the show, but so much of what they've done is simply hand the ball to Ramondre Stevenson, let him abuse the defense, and then go back and play defense themselves, try to take care of the football, try to play ball control. That, I believe, is what's going to get it done tonight if the Patriots do get it done. We know Aaron Rodgers and this Jets offense can be explosive. We know they have their own ways of keeping control of the clock and handing it to their now 2 really talented running backs. If Ramondre Stevenson can have a big game and keep this Patriots offense on the field, they'll be just fine.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see a ton of points tonight, but I would say that the Patriots probably want this one to be more lower scoring and, like you said, Ian, to control the pace of the game and control how much they see of that Jets offense. If you're watching the game tonight, if you're attending the game tonight, maybe you're going to need this from the New York Jets, who just posted this a short while ago. I promise you they did. Here it is. Yeah, there it is. Please grant whoever, fill in your name, the permission to leave work early on September 19th. Oh, see, I thought it was for tomorrow. It's for today. Well, you know what? It should have been for tomorrow so you could sleep in. Maybe they'll post another one of those later on. I won't need it because I'm off tomorrow. Suckers! Meanwhile, elsewhere around the NFL, let's take a look at some news. T. Higgins back on the field for the Cincinnati Bengals. He missed the first 2 games. He had that hamstring, so they're cautiously optimistic about Higgins' progress. We shall see how much he'll be available against Washington. Coming up, we'll keep an eye on his status throughout the week. Meanwhile, A.J. Brown, who told Lisa Salters before the broadcast the other night he expects to miss a couple of weeks, not spotted at practice today. He was listed as not practicing yesterday in a walkthrough, a projection. So it appears that A.J. Brown is on pace to not play for the Eagles this weekend against the New Orleans Saints. But the Eagles did not place him on the IR, so they expect him back within the 4-week window that he would have been down. Meanwhile, here are your notable first-year eligibles on the Pro Football Hall of Fame Class of 2025 list. I believe somebody told me that there are 13 Patriots overall. Well, you got the guy up top that beat the Patriots twice in the Super Bowl, Eli Manning, along with Marshawn Lynch, Darren Sproles. A lot of worthy guys right there that we're going to be talking about as we get closer to selecting the Hall of Fame class of 2025. Speaking of that, I want to bring back Judy Batista and Steve Weish as well. You two are part of a committee that will help narrow down the list of names. Judy, starting with you to explain the process that is to come for the Hall of Fame class of 2025.
Yeah, so the Pro Football Hall of Fame created these screening committees, which is what Steve and I are going to be on. This is the first year that they're doing it this way. And our job is to narrow the list down of eligible players. The list is 167 players long. Our job is to look at their qualifications and narrow it down, vote for 50 to advance. And then this committee, it's 11 members. It's people like Steve and me, media members, but it's also Hall of Famers. It's also former front office executives, football historians. So the idea is just to get more voices and more thoughts into the process of choosing the Hall of Famers. So then we would get it down to 50, and then it goes to the selection committee, and they narrow it down in steps. It's not easy because you just showed the list of the first-time eligible guys. There's people who have been finalists before who haven't gotten in yet. So there is an awful lot of competition for that 50 spots.
Yeah, there really is, Judy, and because, you know, even though we have to narrow it from 167 to 50, you still have to say, well, this guy's all decade. So you understand what the selectors have to do, and you mentioned it. And now we're part of the Modern Era Hall of Fame screening committee. So the selectors now will take that down to 25 semifinalists, eventually to 15, before voting on the 5 Modern Era finalists as well as contributors and seniors. But Judy, let's talk about some of those first-time eligible guys. And the biggest discussion could come down to Eli Manning, right? Is he somebody who advances all the way to the finalist group? Or is he someone who's got to wait a little bit? Maybe he doesn't even get to the 15 finalists, because we know the 2 Super Bowls, but we also know, other than that, does he have the numbers? Has he done enough? Especially, you don't look at it all the time when you look at this committee. You look at the other people that he has to go up against to advance, not just quarterbacks, but other worthy people to be housed in Canton.
Well, that's always the challenge of the selection committee, is to weigh people perhaps who have been waiting to get in. It's a very small class that goes in, so even if you think, an Eli Manning or a Marshawn Lynch or some of these other guys, Adam Vinatieri, deserve to go in quickly, you have to weigh it against the group of former players who have been waiting. I am most interested to see certainly what happens with Eli Manning. Mike and I covered those Super Bowls, and I can attest that those 2 Super Bowl runs were remarkable, and he played just remarkable football during those runs. And of course, they beat the Patriots, who have a ton of players eligible this year, which is just a testament to how dominant the Patriots were for a very long time.
Well, Judy and Mike, real quick, I mean, besides Eli, you talked about the people who have to wait. I think some of the big conversation is going to come back to Torrey Holt and Reggie Wayne, the wide receivers who've been finalists and who have been waiting. There are other people on this list, again, the Jared Allens of the world. You mentioned somebody like Adam Vinatieri, who is very well deserving to be a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Does he get in this year? But a name I want you to think about is Brian Mitchell, the returner and running back in Washington for all of those years. Now that Devin Hester entered the Hall of Fame as a specialist, mainly returner, I think there's going to be a lot more discussion around Brian Mitchell moving forward as this process goes along.
If a lot of our viewers were not lucky enough to see B. Mitch during his playing days for Washington, for Philadelphia, he was electric. He was fantastic at what he did. So it's an interesting case to bring up there, Steve. Appreciate it very much. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Judy. We're talking about potential Hall of Famers. How about the potential Hall of Famers playing today in the NFL? And guys that can help your fantasy team. Michael F. Florio will be joining us coming up to talk about his starts and his sits for Week 3 in fantasy in the NFL.
Would you believe that that's the NFL rushing leader? That is J.K. Dobbins, the now star running back once again for the Los Angeles Chargers. We'll see if he is going to make it 3 games where he continues to be a star. We'll see, even more importantly, if he's going to help your fantasy team. Of course, as we know, NFL Fantasy Live returns tomorrow, 6 p.m. on the NFL Network, starring, among other people, that guy, Michael F. Florio. What's going on? Welcome back to the Insiders. I don't have J.K. Dobbins on my fantasy team. I wish I did. I didn't trust it enough. I thought he would be good. I didn't think it'd be this good. That's a whole different story for another time. Let's go through things that will help my team and maybe some other people's team as we welcome you in with, that's Mike Garafolo too. He, by the way, is in MetLife. He's very happy to see you too. Give me some starts for maybe tonight and this weekend.
Yeah, just like you, Ian, I wish I had J.K. Dobbins on a lot more of my fantasy teams, but I do have Zach Charbonnet, and I am plugging him in this week. Kenneth Walker looking unlikely to play, and if he sits, Charbonnet starts for your team. 96% of the snaps last week, 19 opportunities, 18 fantasy points. That is elite usage. Even if he is not the most efficient runner, that sort of volume makes him a must-start option every time Kenneth Walker sits. Plus, I love the matchup. The Dolphins got ran all over last week. Jamison Williams is another one I think you need to start this week. 20 targets through 2 games. He's been Jared Goff's first read on 35% of his throws. He leads the Lions in end zone targets. That is all elite type of usage. The ceiling is so high, and a lot of points should be scored in this game. I think you are going to want to start players in it. And then George Pickens. If you just looked at the box score last week, you would think George Pickens had a very disappointing game. He had 13 fantasy points called back due to penalties. He had a 51-yard catch wiped off and then a touchdown catch wiped off the board. But it looked to me like he was starting to really develop chemistry with Justin Fields. We know he has safe volume. The upside is high because they like to use him downfield. And he and the Steelers offense, I believe, will be the biggest test so far for that Chargers defense. So I'm fine starting George Pickens this week.
All right, Michael F., I'm going to ask you 2 questions. Who are your sits in week 3? I want you to answer that second. The one I want you to answer first, because you alluded to it just now. You said you wish you had J.K. Dobbins on more of your fantasy teams. How many teams do you have?
I have double-digit fantasy teams, which I do not recommend to people because Tuesday nights are rough setting waivers. And unfortunately, I have DeAndre Swift on 2. Look, I'm wearing blue and orange. It's not for the Bears. It's for me and Ian's Mets. But speaking of the Bears, it's been rough so far this year. DeAndre Swift is averaging just 2 yards per attempt. He has -4 yards before contact, which means he is fighting through contact just to get back to the line of scrimmage. And I know on paper the Colts look like a good matchup, so maybe if you're like me with some desperate, really banged up fantasy teams, you got to play them. But otherwise, if you have an option, I would try to get away. Same thing with Terry McLaurin. I had high hopes, but just 11 targets through 2 games. He has been tethered to the left side of the field with very low air yards per target, and the Commanders do not have a passing touchdown yet on the season. It is just a hard way to score fantasy points, so until we see his usage change, I am okay sitting him in fantasy. And then Jaden Reed. He scored just 6.6 fantasy points last week with Malik Willis, and most of that came on the ground as he had just 9 receiving yards. The Titans defense has been playing very well so far this year, and if Malik Willis is the quarterback, Jaden Reed's ceiling is probably a lot similar to what his floor is with Jordan Love, so as long as it's not Love playing, I think you could sit Jaden Reed.
Florio, do you have one more second? I have some personal questions, okay? I know this isn't relevant to everyone, but I have some personal questions. 2, actually. 1, how do you name all of your teams? Answer that first, but then my second question is I actually have a decision. I have Rashid Shaheed, who is rising, or Mike Evans. Who should I start this week?
Oh, well, I get uncreative with a lot of my team names are just like Florio's team or something like that because it's hard to name that many teams.
You're one of those guys?
Oh, yeah. In my main leagues, I name the teams. The wide receivers, I would still play Mike Evans. I like Rashid Shaheed this week. The upside is high, but I still don't think you can get away from Mike Evans just yet.
All right, Michael F., you helped me draft my team, so you remember we drafted Will Levis, but I found myself saying similar things to what Brian Callahan was caught on camera saying, so I'm out. I cut him. He's gone. The opportunity, I'll tell you after the show, the opportunity now presents itself because someone waved Tua Tagovailoa. Now, we know he's out for 4 weeks and the Dolphins aren't rushing him, but I got a chance to get a top-flight quarterback to add to my roster. So I guess my question to you is, do we buy Tua or do we hawk Tua? Sell.
Right now, I would hawk Tua. I wouldn't want to waste a bench spot knowing that he's not playing for at least a month. I think if you get closer, you add him, but you have Jaden Daniels, the QB3 in fantasy football. Without throwing a touchdown, you're good.
Yeah. Okay. I don't even.
Florio, thank you as always. I will take all of your advice. Mike, pipe down over there. We got other things to do. We got other fantasy teams to talk about, not yours. Go away. In fact, let's talk about this guy. Let's talk about Marvin Harrison Jr., who everyone in the world should have started last week. And if you didn't, if he was on your bench and he did all of those things, you probably lost. Anyway, Cardinals-Lions preview coming up next on The Insiders.
First NFL touchdown for Marvin Harrison Jr. An impressive grab. Big to Connor. Murray on the rollout. Looking deep for Harrison. Marvin Harrison Jr. to the end zone. Touchdown again.
Well, it's Lions and Cardinals this weekend. I have a feeling we're going to be talking a lot more about Marvin Harrison Jr. this week and probably every week that he is in the NFL. But the Cardinals coming off the rout of the Rams and, of course, the Lions coming off that disappointing loss to the Bucs. Let's bring in our Omar Ruiz. Again, he's spent a lot of time around the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, Kyler Murray went off last week. How do they keep that going against the Lions defense?
Well, what a performance. Yeah, third game in a row to start the season for the Cardinals against teams that went to the playoffs last year, Judy. And Kyler Murray, one of the more electrifying performances of his career, that perfect passer rating that sent off his jersey to the Hall of Fame in Canton. And after the game, Kyler Murray told me that he's out there. It's a good feeling. He's having fun. That Elijah Higgins touchdown pass where he made 3 defenders miss. It was a quintessential Kyler Murray play, and he's playing with confidence. He says he knew as soon as he threw the ball, it was going to be a touchdown to Higgins in the back of the end zone. And obviously, it's a team effort. Even before that first touchdown pass to Marvin Harrison Jr., the Cardinals offense opened up with runs of 16 yards for James Conner, 13 yards for James Conner, essentially opening things up for the passing game. And Kyler Murray saying, so all those spectacular plays that he's making is a reflection of how well the offense is doing, and those spectacular plays are coming within the context of the offense. He says a big key for this season in Drew Petzing's offense is not feeling the pressure to having to make those crazy highlight reel plays. He can do it when it comes to him, not force it, and we're seeing the results of his great play here, and they hope it continues against the Lions on Sunday, Judy.
Well, an awful lot of those great plays, of course, came with Marvin Harrison Jr. We saw him in that highlight reel there. It seems like about a year ago that we were all worried about his lack of activity in Week 1. What should we expect in Week 3?
Well, I thought the interesting part, and I think it says a lot about Marvin Harrison Jr. and why the Cardinals thought so highly of him to make him the first player off the board, not quarterback, was when he came into the press conference room after the game. He said he was glad the team won. He was happy with his performance, but he looked at Kyler Murray's stat line. 17 of 21, 266 yards. Those 4 incompletions all came on passes directed toward Marvin Harrison Jr. So he was already dwelling on how he can be better week in, week out, and talking about dealing with this success in his second game in the NFL. He said in dealing with that first game against the Bills, where he only had 1 catch for 4 yards, he said he focused on not being too low that week and just focusing on the work and getting ready for the Rams. And obviously that paid off with that huge performance in the first quarter, in the first half against the Rams. And he says now the key is to not get too high as they prepare for that Lions defense, with, of course, Aiden Hutchinson as dominating a player we've seen so far on defense in the NFL, coming off that 4.5 sack game against the Buccaneers. We saw him dominate over the left tackle for the Rams in that Week 1 Sunday Night Football performance. So even though this is a big test for the Cardinals, they're just looking at it as this is the 3rd round of their season, but obviously looking forward to the challenge and answering a very physical team that we know that the Lions are going to come in and bring. And I think what's interesting, Judy, is a lot of people in Arizona look at the pattern that the Lions have set over the last several years, where they didn't win very many games in Dan Campbell's first year. They didn't win very many games for the Cardinals and Jonathan Gannon. And then in the second year and then third years, continued to progress. So an interesting dynamic here for that Cardinals-Lions matchup on Sunday.
I'm sure those Cardinals fans would take the results the Lions have been getting recently. Omar, thank you very much. We'll be talking to you again soon.
It's Week 3, so we don't expect you to have this memorized just yet, so we're going to show it to you. This is where you can find the insiders all week long. Today is Thursday, so it's NFL Plus, the NFL channel on all your fast TV outlets that you can find there, and YouTube as well. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, so back tomorrow on the NFL Network and NFL Plus. Take a screenshot of that. Save it in your favorites so it's accessible at all times. Back here at MetLife Stadium.
I did.
Getting closer to kickoff of Jets-Patriots, and it is a different world when it comes to the Patriots these days than it's been over the last, 20-plus years or so. Let's take a look at what pregame was like last week for the Patriots.
Oh, hit. Hit. Oh, got him. Oh, heads up. Got him. Got him all.
Now, if you're Ian Rappaport, you've been hit in the face before. While you're on the sideline, you're probably a little jumpy. Everybody else should be, realizing that Gerard Mayo is playing a prank. Now, here's my goal for the evening. I'm going to let you know right now. I don't think he's watching. I think he's very busy. I'm going to try and get him. I'm going to try to get Gerard Mayo with the same prank that he was playing on everybody else, and I'm going to try to get it on camera. JB Critz, my producer, already told him what we're going to do here. He's got his phone ready. He's clearing out the memory. I am going to try to make – I actually think it's going to make a great video either way. If he doesn't flinch, it'll be like, okay, you can play that prank because you didn't flinch. If he does, we'll get him. All right, but after we do that, we're going to get set. What are we taking a look at? I'm being told to take a look at this. What do we got? Tell me, Jeff Collette, show me.
Oh, no. What?
Yeah.
No. Why?
Yeah.
No. See,
Go ahead.
look how big my suit is.
We'll give you your say.
I mean, look how huge my suit
Yeah.
Your
is.
shoulder pads are huge.
And my tie is all
show it
disrumpled,
again.
or whatever you would say.
Yeah, that's right. There we
Anyway.
go.
Yeah, you
Show
gotta
it on a loop again.
Tighten that thing up.
Yeah.
You're also now listen.
So
you're
I
also
showed-
in better shape. You have a fat face there, so good on you for losing weight as you get older.
Wow.
Aren't there other ways to describe that? I mean, fat's not a very nice, that's not something we
Chunky?
say nowadays.
Chubby?
I am in shape, thank you for noticing. Chubby's also not very nice,
It's a
as a matter of
compliment.
fact. It is a little bit different in New England, though. Now, first of all, yeah, let's talk about the Patriots. So it is a little bit different. Now, not that Bill Belichick didn't have fun. He was definitely a fan of making fun of people. He definitely was a fan of dad humor, which Gerard Mayo, clearly a fan of dad humor, as am I. By the way, as a noted dad joke expert. But it really has taken on a very different vibe. I mean, one visit to the Patriots, you can tell things are a little different. The hope is that this helps key the turnaround, the sort of new, freer culture, Judy. We'll see if it translates on the field, but it is definitely a different feel in that building.
Yeah, there's no question. Listen, I was there when Gerard Mayo was introduced. We were all there during training camp at some point. There's just sort of a little bit of lightness there, which is not to suggest that Gerard Mayo is, a player's coach. He doesn't like that description. He ran a really hard training camp. But one thing I do think is, we all talked during the training camp and preseason about how what's lacking on this roster, that they're still building up this roster. They are playing really hard for Gerard Mayo. And we talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. Like, they're playing like a sort of old school football, tough defense. They're going to run the ball. This is how they are going to get through the season. He had a tough decision right out of the gate to make on Drake May and how to handle him. And, I do think that the team has sort of rallied around Gerard Mayo as a rookie head coach.
I talked to Antonio Gibson, the running back, and he said you get a former player and a guy who played in this league recently. He understands what we're going through, so it's been really great from that standpoint. Apparently, the communication has been very good for Gerard Mayo as a head coach. The communication was not the greatest at times for players toward the head coach when Bill Belichick was the head coach. And the communication toward Ian Rappaport that day in Houston, what year was it, 2010? Should have been, heads up, Ian! Heads up! Watch out! Look out, Ian!
Nobody said a word. Not one person said a word.
Nobody said a word.
Nobody could have said, like, heads up? No heads up at all?